welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone's doing well mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And I hope that everything is going well your end despite what's going on around us, albeit very, very, very scary. I hope that everybody nonetheless is doing well. I hope that we're still setting goals, manifesting over them, and practicing the law of attraction in our lives. And I hope that the last video on this particular series did touch somebody and spoke to somebody. And I just hope that, we're working towards mending what's broken in our society, that being the communication system as well as the avenues in order for us to talk. So today's particular video is aimed at just discussing the 4 general causes that could lead up to one suffering from depression. So although the idea of mental health is very, very broad and there are a lot of factors that could lead to it, there are 4 general causes that have been narrowed down, and those are going to be what we address today and what we speak about. It's not really going to be in depth because obviously I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor. So just a disclaimer, it's just from what I've studied and what I've read and from what I've seen around us. So I think that's what we're going to be focusing on today, and hopefully that also touches somebody and educates someone on the idea of mental health. And then I think in the next episode we'll address possibly building support systems in the society to help people that may be suffering from depression, people that need help in order to cope with how they're feeling and in terms of just dealing with life in general. So today we'll be just discussing the general causes, and then we'll then discuss support systems that could in turn help people manage their depression, or in turn seek help in order for them to manage the depression. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and become part of the family, which is growing, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Once again, I'm grateful for people that are joining, people that are telling everybody, and people that are sharing. I really, really am grateful. I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm very grateful. So before this video, an intro, gets too long, let's get into it. So I have with me my handy little notebook that I write my notes, just because, to be fair, these are terms and things that not everybody knows, and I do acknowledge that. It is a very difficult topic, and the biology behind some of the things we'll be studying. So I just had to write them down just so I don't get these things wrong. So the 4 general causes that have been narrowed down for depression are biological, chemical, environmental, and situational. So there are 2 very important ones I think I'm going to touch on and do a separate video on. Why? Because for me personally, jeez. Oh god, it's so hard being vulnerable. For me, one of them is a personal one to me. So for me, I think I'd like to talk in depth in a separate video on situational causes, and then another one would be environmental. So I think I'll do separate videos. I'll just touch briefly on them, but then I'll get in depth in 2 separate videos for those. The other 2 are generally very difficult to combat, but the other 2, so again, it's biological, chemical, situational, and environmental. So those are the 4 main causes that have been narrowed down. Obviously there could be other reasons, but those are just the umbrella causes. So biological could mean that it's genetic. This is depression that's passed on through genetics. So bear in mind that none of these causes place fault in anybody's court. It's not that we're saying that because you did A, B, and C, it's your fault that you have depression. It's never anybody's fault. It's never a choice that's made. So just bear that in mind, that sometimes you may find yourself in a situation or an environment that could have been avoided, but it's not your fault. Let's bear that in mind, and that's why I want to go in depth in those 2. So biological means it's genetic. So it's also got to do with chemicals in your body. So it's basically an imbalance within the chemicals in your brain. So among the gazillion hormones that we all have, there's one specific one that's a key factor in biological depression. So that is serotonin, which is commonly known as the happy hormone. So for example, when one person is in a new relationship or is in love, your body, or your brain rather, releases serotonin and dopamine. I think dopamine is referred to as the love hormone, and serotonin is the happy hormone. Okay, so what this essentially means is that your body, or your brain rather, is not producing enough serotonin, right? So this affects your moods. So serotonin also regulates your moods. So due to the minimal production of serotonin, your mood generally tends to be low. So that means you're a little bit sad and you're a little bit more somber than you would be if, you know, your levels were where they normally would be, right? Again, just proving that, you know, it's not a choice, it's just biology. Another factor, the second factor, is a chemical. So this just means the medication you're taking. So a lot of times when you purchase medication or when you are prescribed medication, it's very, very important to do your research on that medication. That means reading the fine print that the doctor or the pharmacist wouldn't outright tell you. That means making the choice to, like, you know, understand what you're putting into your body. Because a lot of this medication, one of the side effects will be depression or, you know, effects on your mood. And I know definitely one of those is birth control. That's a big factor. A big side effect of birth control, the oral birth control. It's a huge side effect. It messes with your moods, and it does cause a little bit of depression. I think Valium as well was one of the medications that I saw that did say, please do correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna put links for one to research and read more on what I'm talking about. But yeah, so generally it's important to ask your pharmacist what are the side effects and what it is that the medication does. A lot of the other medication, of course, is taken because you have to take it for the sake of your health. So obviously you don't really have a choice as to whether you can take it or not take it, because in order for you to get into good health, you need to take the medication. So that's also, again, a difficult situation where you need to take the medication even though the side effects are that. So yeah, it's another big factor. The last two, which are the ones I want to do separate videos on, are situational and environment. So situational could be divorce, it could be death, it could be a loss of a job. For a university student, it could be failure. So it's just a situation in your life that triggers it. It doesn't mean that it's biological, it doesn't mean that you've always had it. It just means that something that has taken place within your life has caused you to, start feeling sad and start feeling depressed. A big factor is death, definitely. It's not everybody that reacts the same way. Obviously, there is depression, and then there's stages of grief. So within those stages of grief, there is sadness, of course, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's depression, which is different from what I'm talking about. But death is a huge factor in terms of causing depression and a situation. And a lot of the times you're struggling to cope and you're struggling to pick yourself up and get yourself to the stage you were before this particular incident happened, right? So personally, when I lost my mom, I'm a different person from the person I was prior to that. And one of the most difficult things I had to do was accept that there are going to be changes within me. And I think that's what also triggered the depression I did go through, was the fact that I was trying to get back to where I was before, and I was struggling to. And I was trying to get there on my own, and I couldn't, which is why I had to then seek counseling, because I went through grief counseling, which is so important, because it helps you understand that what you feel is important, what you feel is okay, because people handle death very differently. And what happens is, a lot of the times we're taught that don't keep crying, they're resting now. We're taught that they're no longer sick. We're taught that they're better on the other side, but that doesn't negate the pain that we're feeling. It doesn't stop us feeling the way that we're feeling just because they are happier or they are no longer feeling pain. Do you get what I mean? So for me, a lot of it was triggered by what I believe to have been too much loss for the age that I'm at. I'm only 21 and I've experienced way too much loss in my opinion. So it does take a toll on you. It does cause you to be tired, you're weary, and you're struggling to cope. And that's, again, okay for you to seek help. And like I said, that I'm lucky I come from a family that encourages it. So I started going for grief counseling because of my dad. He checked me in and he got me into that place. So again, it's important to have that system around you, or to be that system around the individual, to help them understand that it's okay to seek help. It doesn't necessarily mean that once you go through it, it stops and it's done, it's over. It's only 6 to 8 weeks, I believe. It doesn't mean that after that 8 weeks you're fine, you're healed, you're exactly where you need to be. It doesn't. It's a continual thing that you constantly need to check up on, that you constantly need to stop and think, how am I doing today? Really, really doing today. So yeah, it's a learning experience every day. You understand it at a different level. And then environmental, we would talk about perhaps the way in which someone is raised and the environment in which the person grows up. So for example, it can be physical environment where perhaps you'd be in a neighborhood that's like gang infested. So that means there's constant violence around you. That could be the physical environment, or it could be in the home, which means that what you're witnessing in the home, what you're seeing in the home, it could be an abusive parent, it could be you being abused, or you watching a parent abusing your other parent. So these are all things that could fall under the environment, and that also could definitely play a role in how one person handles life and how they cope, which could in turn lead to depression when they're looking at what's going on around them, and it causes hopelessness. So that's also a big factor. So I guess being in a dysfunctional family, and also the physical environment within that this person is in. Yeah, so I know that this video, in terms of my explanation, was a little bit shallow, but that's just because there's a lot to this that cannot be summed up in one video. There's so much to it, and which is why I'm gonna put links in the description box to explain these different factors and these general causes, and that will go in depth for anyone who's willing to hear or understand these causes in depth. So I hope this helps someone understand what could lead to other people suffering and failing to cope, and I hope this also helps you understand that whatever it is that you may be going through is not your fault. Whatever it is you may be dealing with is not your fault. So I think I just wanted this video to be an introduction and just help you understand what it is that could lead to depression. We're gonna go deeper as the series goes on. We're gonna go deeper and look at other factors, but yeah, that's about it for this video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.